Hello, it's so great to be with you today. I wish we were in person, but I just had to share some of my favorite poems with you. The poems that I'm going to share have come right out of one of my favorite books of poetry. These are the best loved poems of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. Of course, we know Jackie Kennedy as the First Lady, as she was married to John F. Kennedy, our 35th president. The poems were compiled in this book by her daughter Caroline. Caroline and her brother John were introduced to poetry at a very young age, and they were challenged every year for Jackie's birthday, their mother's birthday and Mother's Day, to find a favorite poem and illustrate that poem and give it to her as a gift. It became quite a little competition to see who would find the longest poem or the most famous poem. And now Caroline has that scrapbook where her mother kept all of those creations, and she can look back, and that book tells her more of all of the love of poetry and some of the experiences they have, just as much as the photographs of their family time together. It's a very treasured family heirloom. So today I want to share some of the poems that Jackie Kennedy shared with her daughter Caroline and son John. The first one is called Three Little Ponies by Arthur Guiterman. Three little ponies who didn't like their hay said to each other, "Let's run away." Said the first, "I will canter." Said the second, "I will trot." Said the third, "I will run if it's not too hot." And they all started off with their tails in the air, but they couldn't jump the fence, so they're all still there. I think that would be a really fun one because the Kennedy family loved riding horses. The next one's called The Little Turtle by Vachel Lindsay. There was a little turtle. He lived in a box. He swam in a puddle. He climbed on the rocks. He snapped at a mosquito. He snapped at a flea. He snapped at a minnow, and he snapped at me. He caught the mosquito. He caught the flea. He caught the minnow, but he didn't catch me. I always chuckle with that one. I had a turtle named Myrtle the Turtle once. Oh, here, this one. This is called The Swing. And I love this because I'm sure that many of you felt the same way as I did as a child when we would be on that swing and swing up into the sky. Some of the huge swings at the playground were my favorite. And we just felt like we could touch the clouds. This is called The Swing by Robert Louis Stevenson. How do you like to go up in a swing, up in the air so blue? Oh, I do think it the pleasantest thing ever a child can do. Up in the air and over the wall, till I can see so wide, rivers and trees and cattle and all, over the countryside, till I look down on the garden green, down on the roof so brown. Up in the air I go flying again, up in the air and down. So fun to think of the children listening to these poems that related so much to their life. This is a very interesting one because I remember having to be in my bed when I didn't feel well and having to stay in my bed for a long time and getting very creative. This is called The Land of Counterpane, And I will have to tell you, I had to look up that word because I'm thinking, what is counterpane? Well, the definition is a bedspread or a bed covering. And it says so in the poem, in other words. The land of counterpane. When I was sick and lay in bed, I had 2 pillows at my head, and all my toys beside me lay to keep me happy all the day. And sometimes for an hour or so I watched my leaden soldiers go with different uniforms and drills among the bedclothes through the hills, and sometimes sent my ships in fleets all up and down among the sheets, or brought my trees and houses out and planted cities all about. I was the giant great and still that sits upon the pillow hill, and sees before him dale and plain, the pleasant land of counterpane. Now our next poem is by Mary Austin. It is called Grizzly Bear. Now I live in Minnesota, and Liz used to live in Wisconsin, and I loved hearing all the stories about bears. You didn't see bears very often. And this poem is about the fact that you really don't want to run into a grizzly bear. Grizzly bear. If you ever meet a grizzly bear, you must never, never, never ask him where he is going or what he is doing. For if you dare to stop a grizzly bear, you will never meet another grizzly bear. Now I thought that poem was a perfect segue to my next poem. My final poem of the day is called Teddy Bear's Picnic. And yes, that's why I'm surrounded by teddy bears. I loved playing with teddy bears and loved to collect fun toys and teddy bears. As you can see, Teddy Bear's Picnic. If you go down to the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. If you go down to the woods today, you better go in disguise. For every bear that ever there was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic. Every teddy bear who's been good is sure of a treat today. There's lots of marvelous things to eat and wonderful games to play. Beneath the trees where nobody sees, they'll hide and seek as long as they please, 'cause that's the way the teddy bears have their picnic. If you go down to the woods today, you'd better not go alone. It's lovely down in the woods today, but safer to stay at home. For every bear that ever was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic. Picnic time for teddy bears. The little teddy bears are having a lovely, lovely time today. And see them picnic on their holiday. See them gaily gad about. They love to play and shout. They never have any care. At 6 o'clock, their mommies and daddies will take them home to bed, because they're tired little teddy bears. Now the fun thing about teddy bears is that in 1902, when the author of this poem was born, 1902, so he's a tiny newborn baby, at that same time, President Theodore Roosevelt was hunting and he refused to shoot a bear. And people thought that was quite a story. So they called it Teddy's bear. And people literally started creating bears out of fabric and stuffing. The original teddy bears maybe didn't have blue jeans on. They just were a bear. And the people who made the bears put it in the window and said, Teddy's bear. And it became quite a story. And more people started creating teddy bears, and the children said, these are fun, I love them. And to this very day, teddy bears are created all around the world. And of course, as you see, I have teddy bears with sweaters and hats and little tiny rocking chairs. And even the tiniest little baby. We have an entire teddy bear family enjoying their teddy bear picnic. I am so glad I could share these poems with you. It brings me great joy to read poetry. I look forward to sharing more poems with you in the future. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I hope that you've enjoyed the poems and certainly the teddy bears. Have a